Hello, everyone. Welcome to this. I'm going to call it a fabulous Friday.
It is.
Huh? How about that? Thanks so much for checking in with us. I'm Sara and He is Jamie Thomas. We are going to get you set for tonight's game between the Winnipeg Jets and Pittsburgh Penguins. Make sure that you hit subscribe.
Yeah.
You smash that like button. I think I already saw in the comments that people have been doing that. Phyllis. Already, Phyllis.
Without saying.
I mean, we love you, Phyllis.
Yeah.
You can always watch us on X, Facebook, and YouTube. We love to hear you in the comments. We love to be able to get that conversation going and engaging with you. If for some reason you're not able to join us live, though, you can always watch it afterwards. And we get you set for the game.
That's what we have. We record this for you. It's like laid out for you. We do all of this for you to watch later if you can't get the whole thing right now.
That's right. Over the next 30 minutes, we have a busy show coming up at 12:40.
Oh my gosh. I'm so excited. Greg Wyshynski from ESPN is joining us at 12:40. Then Colby Armstrong from Sportsnet Pittsburgh and Sportsnet and TNT.
The list could go on and on.
Is there anything he doesn't work for right now?
A great personality, a good prairie boy. He's coming up at 12:50, so looking forward to that. ESPN just had a great article that they put out on the Winnipeg Jets. If you haven't had the chance to see it yet,
it's great. You texted me a couple days ago. It says it's the longest article you've ever seen written about the Jets.
Probably ESPN.
It is. Yeah, especially on ESPN.
Yes.
So we're thankful for Greg Wyshynski and Kristen Shilton, who actually used to work for the Toronto Maple Leafs for a while at TSN.
Yeah, covered them.
Yeah.
Yes.
So they've combined to put together a pretty interesting article about is the Winnipeg Jets start to the season sustainable? And we will ask Greg about that coming up at 12:40.
So looking forward to that. The Jets, of course, kicking off their longest road trip. 6 games in 11 days of what they're gone, but really 6 games, I think, in 10 days.
3 time
zones. As Mason Appleton said this morning, one of the longest, craziest road trips that he's been on. And one of the comments that I liked from Mark Scheifele after the win against Florida the other night, he said, we wanted to have a good game in front of our home crowd before we go on the road for what feels like forever. And you've been on long road trips, obviously, your time broadcasting with the Jets. What is the challenge in your mind of a road trip like this?
Not eating too much. That's come back 5 pounds heavier. But I think I heard Mason Appleton say this today. It's just like it's the rest and taking care of your body afterwards. The abuse that we take as broadcasters, not nearly the abuse that the players take. But it's long. Like jumping 3 time zones. I've always found the West Coast the most challenging because of the time change and. You're used to Winnipeg time. Now you're getting up I'm usually up at 6. So now you get up at 4 and you're wide awake. That sucks.
Yes.
So I don't know what the players do to alleviate that or to outside of putting their body in harm. And they're probably tired anyways. It doesn't help it. So I'm curious. I've never got that chance to ask the players about what they do about the West Coast, but that's a challenge for us as broadcasters.
I remember was a couple of years ago, you and I in Vegas for playoffs.
Yeah.
And I would message, I've already gone out to go get a coffee. And say, it's 6:30 in the morning.
Yes.
I've been up for a while.
you would see like Vegas is fascinating at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Yes.
A lot of stragglers rolling in. There's some walks of shame going on there. Not that I confirm that with anybody, but you could tell.
Yes. So let's get to the question of the day. We thank all of you for watching. In addition to the question of the day, we also obviously want to know where you're watching from. We love to hear where all the Winnipeg Jets fans are situated from the question of the day.
Well, so with all the positivity surrounding the team, it's becoming challenging now to find different ways to ask questions. So of the 16 wins the Jets have in their first 19, what game impressed you the most or what win impressed you the most? And to me, the game against Florida on Tuesday was the most impressive to me, considering what had happened on Saturday in Sunrise. So that response to me was huge. And you heard the players talk about it afterwards. It's very similar to the playoffs. You get killed in the other team's building and you come back and you have some time to think about what happened, watch some film and change some things. And the Jets did that. They were, their best players were their best players from the drop of the puck on Tuesday. And I think that's why, to me, it would be the Florida game of the 16 wins so far this year. I don't know about you.
I feel, so I would have taken the Florida game as well.
Yeah.
But as any time that you do a show and say there's a panel or anything, I think everyone can't choose the same game. So
because I went first.
So because you went first and you took Florida, I will say that the Florida one, certainly, but then I also like the game against Dallas. That
Okay.
we saw in terms of a complete effort. I think the significance of the Florida game is greater just because of the 2 losses, because of how they played in those games against Tampa and Florida. So for them to be able to come out and assert themselves again, improve to 9-1 at home, was very important. But then that game against Dallas, I really liked the complete game that we saw. And I think that as much as they had played really well for long stretches, and what we have talked about as being a sustainable style of play, what I liked about the Dallas game was just that we hadn't always seen it for a full 60 minutes.
Right.
And I thought we did in that game. So those would be, let's say, the 2 games out of us, out of our choices that we think stand out. What about you guys, though? We definitely want to hear from you. I see that someone put in the Oilers game.
So
Yes, Charlie.
Yeah.
That was a great way to kick off the season. There's no doubt about it.
And Mr. 537 Leslie, I like the Rangers game. A lot of people did, especially Mark Scheifele with the hat trick in that one. I could see the Ehlers hat trick versus Columbus is Brady's choice. The best part is you have 16 wins to choose from, and you kind of have to go back in your memory to think about that because of how the Jets have been stocking or piling up the wins at this point. So I like this, John. Seeing Morgan Barron score 2 goals in 11 seconds was electric, and both shorthanded goals. And I do like the joke afterwards that the bank shot was because he went to Cornell, which is fascinating.
So now when the Jets win, so I do a post-game interview with one of the 3 stars. So I was standing back there waiting for the stars to go out. So Morgan goes out as 3rd star or 2nd star. And then he comes back in, and Mark Scheifele standing back there, and he said, "Oh, it's because you're a Cornell guy, just like me." Because for that, I now remember Mark Scheifele was supposed to have gone to Cornell before he went through the OHL route.
Right.
So, he's taking a little bit of credit, despite the fact that he never actually went there. As we go through the comments, just quickly, I want to say, hey, Connolly, watching between classes at U of R. Hi, guys. Hey, Connolly. That's, you're probably supposed to be studying right now.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that later. Connolly,
it is Friday. It's Friday. You don't have to study on Friday.
But great to see you, Connolly, always one of our favorite Jets fans. We've got Stacy from Erie, Pennsylvania. We've got Clonos, Sherwood Park, Alberta, with Charlie. So lots of great comments so far that we see.
Okay, so we promised that Greg Wyshynski was going to join us at 12:40, but you know what professionals do? They check in early. And because he's ready to go and because he has this perfect setup in his garage, we're going to bring in Greg Wyshynski to the Look at that, the NHL and ESPN.
Oh, yeah. I mean, listen, when you're a digital video guy for ESPN, and by that I mean they don't put me on the air, you got to have the right setup. And you said garage. It's actually a converted storage unit in the basement of the brownstone I live in Brooklyn. So it's like
really
if you could see the rest of it, it's very narrow. It's like being on a very small Japanese subway car. But I've done it up to look really nice. And it fools people into thinking that it's more grandiose than it is.
It looks massive, actually. So it's well done with using.
You've done a great job with it. Right? Although I do really, later on, I'm hoping that maybe you could send us just a picture so that JT and I can look at it. I'm very curious what it looks like just off camera.
Absolutely. I absolutely will give you the behind the scenes scoop on the office here.
Beauty.
We listen. I love the article you and Kristen Shilton put up on ESPN.com the other day about the Winnipeg Jets. We always love positive affirmation about this hockey team, and especially in this market. But I think the gist of the article is the Jets start sustainable. So, Greg, the question I have for you, after all the research that was done by many people at ESPN, is the Jets start sustainable?
Yeah, and it's me and Kristen. It was Megan Chayka from Stathletes. It was Rachel Dory. It's a lot of people kind of digging into the numbers here to produce that article. And so sustainability is an interesting thing about this team, because if you look at the underlying numbers at 5-on-5, as I'm sure a lot of people have, they don't blow you away. You look at the Minnesota Wild right now, for example, and what they're doing defensively at even strength based on the analytics and the actual numbers. And it's really, really impressive. The Jets Listen, as Scott Arniel told me, it's not like they're depending on Connor Hellebuck to make 50 saves a night. Like, they're playing well enough in front of him, but there is certainly a bit of having that safety net back there that I think has put wind in their sails. And so the two things regarding sustainability that we really focused on in the article are, one, the 5-on-5 play, which hasn't always been consistent for them this year. And then the second thing, obviously, is, things that, like, the power play percentage will be coming back down to earth at some point. There are certain things you're going to be able to count on all year for this team. Hellebuck, the incredible depth at forward that Kevin Cheveldayoff has built there. But some of these other things, I think, are ones that might level out. The good news is that they're banking points left and right, and it may not actually hurt them in the standings.
Okay, so let's talk about those points. In 16-3 so far, the best record. Like, how important, when you think big picture, because we are only entering the 20th game here tonight, big picture, how important is it that they have been able to grab the points that they have so far?
Yeah, I mean, when I went and talked to the Jets when they were coming through Madison Square Garden to play the Rangers, they all said sort of the same thing, which is, it doesn't matter if you collect the points in October or April. It's 2 points for a win,
Yeah.
and I think that their thought right now is that, the more that they do now, the easier it might be later on if things do change in some of the aspects of the game that are going so well for them. But I think it just allows them to just be confident about proof of concept. I mean, let's not forget, this is an associate coach now becoming a head coach. This is a team that, over the last couple of years has seen personnel changes on the roster and things of that nature. And a team that certainly felt the sting of disappointment when they had a 110-point season and then, got shellacked in the first round for the second consecutive season. So, I think that they are going to build a lot of confidence off this first month and a half of the season. I think it gives them an insurance policy in case, God forbid, there's a serious injury to an important player or they go on a little bit of a skid. But ultimately, they just feel like they've earned these wins, no matter if it's early in the season or late in the season. A win's a win.
We talk a lot, obviously, about the Central Division here, but if you look at the West kind of as a whole, since we know that wild cards can play an important role as the season goes on, as everyone starts paying attention, in that late March, April, who's the matchup going to be? When you look at the West right now, what is it that stands out to you most?
I mean, your question is, are they going to have to face Connor and Leon in the first round? I mean, that's essentially what you're asking, right? Let's not just tiptoe around it. The way that the Pacific is starting to kind of look. I mean, if the LA Kings are as good as we've seen them be at parts early on in the season, they're not consistent, but they certainly look better than I think a lot of us thought. They might earn one of those top 3 spots in the Pacific, understanding that, Vancouver is only going to get better as they get healthier and get players back, JT Miller included, when he comes back from his personal leave. And Vegas is Vegas, which means that this Edmonton team that can't seem to really string a winning streak together at this point, although as we saw last year, that can change pretty quickly, might end up in the wild card, which means they might end up being a first round opponent for Vegas or whoever wins the Central, which right now looks like it's going to be the Winnipeg Jets. So it's not the happiest thing you'd like to see in the first round of the Jets, 2 guys that can win a series on their own, but it could play out that way based on how the Pacific is going.
Last one before we let you go. I love the article grading and the preseason bold predictions at ESPN. And the one you guys had for the Winnipeg Jets was Connor Hellebuck leading the U.S. to glory at the Four Nations face-off. And the grading you gave it was a 9 out of 10. It looks good so far. So, we're still a ways away from that tournament. But do you see the United States kind of being that pain in the side for Canada at that Four Nations face-off?
I think so. The goaltending obviously is the biggest advantage for the U.S. And obviously I make that prediction and make that grade, as everyone has read me for years knows. I am a bit of a patriot when it comes to American hockey on the international stage. But the goaltending is something they're not going to have to worry about. I think whether it's Hellebuck or Ottinger, probably won't be Swayman based on what's happened this year. And Demko obviously is in and out of the lineup, but either Ottinger or Hellebuck is probably going to give them a really good game against Canada. The real key for the U.S., and I've talked to Bill Guerin, the GM of the team, I've talked to past U.S. Olympians like Mike Modano about this, is can these young, extremely talented players that are going to be playing together on Team USA for the first time figure out how to play a role? It's something Modano told me about those Team Canada teams that he played against, in the Olympics and other tournaments. You had this incredible assemblage of talent in Canada, but essentially these guys knew how to play a role on the team. If you were on the fourth line, they needed you to be more of a shutdown guy. It doesn't matter if you had 90 points in the regular season, you play that role. And I do wonder when you look at this U.S. team, I have faith that Matthew Tkachuk and Brady Tkachuk could probably do that. I have less faith that like Jack Hughes is going to like D up in a game as much as you might need him to if he had to play that role. So it's going to be interesting to see how some of these young guys figure it out as far as, not necessarily playing the same role that they do for their teams in the regular season. And if they do, I think they've got the talent to win the tournament. I think they've got the talent to win gold, and they certainly have the talent in goal with Hellebuck or Ottinger to do that as well.
Well, the background is phenomenal. Thank you so much for coming.
Comments in our comments.
Yeah, about how nice it looks.
About how much they love the wall color. So,
hey, credit to my wife Ruby on the wall color. We worked together to figure out what would really pop, on video, and I think she came up with a really good color. But props to me, obviously, for the background. It's not like she walked in here and put a bunch of Star Wars stuff behind me. That's me. So it's a collaborative effort.
Appreciate the time, my friend, and looking forward to seeing you down the road. And a great article again.
Yeah, it was great.
Anytime. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much.
Greg Wyshynski joining us from ESPN. Like, seriously, that background is unreal.
I thought as soon as he said Star Wars that you were gonna.
Well, I can't get
you
too
weren't
overly
gonna
excited
that you
about
weren't
it.
going to let him go. You were gonna go down the Star Wars path.
I don't want to get too excited about it, so it's not fun because there's a huge game tonight. It was the Jets playing the Pittsburgh Penguins.
That's right. There is the focus. Morning skate. And
yes,
just quickly before we get to that, as we mentioned, you can find Greg's article on ESPN.com. Search for it on as well.
Yeah.
NHL. Great article. Definitely worth your time and the read. So news from morning skates, because morning skates are done. It is 12:47 Central Time right now, so Eastern Time Zone for Pittsburgh. The news from Jets morning skate: Connor Hellebuck looks like he will get the start tonight. No lineup changes, not really a surprise therefore, but Logan Stanley was on the ice after the team as they were wrapping up. Word from Coach Scott Arniel: no timeline yet for Logan's potential return, just getting a feel for it. He's been on the ice the last few days, but of course they don't really have any practice time coming up with it. They've got a back-to-back game where they're in Nashville tomorrow. It's a day off on Sunday in Minnesota. So where we will see Logan Stanley kind of work his way back into practice remains to be seen, but a positive step for the big guy.
Yeah, that's huge. Anytime you're skating, that's just such a, and you know what, the mid-body injury is the first time I've heard that, because usually it's upper or lower.
That's right.
And now we've added another area of the body to talk about. So
we used to joke about for upper or lower body, say if it was a hand injury, that would they get
was it hurt up here?
Was it hurt up here? So up here it's an upper body injury, down here it's a lower body injury. As for Pittsburgh, Tristan Jarry gets the start. Chris Letang, Kevin Hayes, both game time decisions. Hayes has been on IR. Chris Letang is dealing with an illness, and it was an optional skate this morning, so no real lines to look at from Pittsburgh. Plus with the game time decisions, it's always up in the air a little bit as to what you could see from lines. But Tristan Jarry, who we did not see when these two teams met last month, he hasn't had the start that the Penguins.
But he's had the numbers against the Jets over his career.
That's
the thing.
Yeah. So he has not had the season, but we'll see whether we'll talk to Colby Armstrong in just a couple minutes to see whether or not he thinks that Jarry maybe is starting to turn the corner, which is what the Penguins would need. But against Winnipeg, Tristan Jarry, 5-1 with a 1.15 goals against average, .960 save percentage, and 2 shutouts in 6 games.
Yeah, he's goalied the Jets quite a bit.
Yes.
So this is like his third start since they sent him back to the American Hockey League to get his confidence back. And, Penguins have had a tough time lately holding on to leads.
Yes.
So that's another issue. And now there's like all these conversations flying around about, the futures of Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin. I don't see them going anywhere, really.
No, and they have with their deals and no movements and everything. I mean, they're in control of what they do as well. Speaking of Sidney Crosby, he's looking to become just the 21st player to hit the 600 goal mark. He's sitting at 599. The only other active player in the NHL right now that has hit 600 goals is Alexander Ovechkin. Very unfortunate because he's sidelined.
We've seen, how many times have we seen milestones be?
A lot, way too often. So hopefully Crosby waits one more game. Doesn't get it tonight, but he is sitting on 5.
Or it can be the only goal tonight. because of the respect I
and
have
he's
for
played well. He's played well at home. I mean, he's played well this season, but he's played well at home. 6 of his 7 goals have come at PPG Paints Arena, which has been a difficult building for the Jets for a number of years to be able to come out with the 2 points. But we also haven't seen the Jets playing the way that they have been.
Well, that's the conversation a lot of players are saying, that you go on the road. Pittsburgh's always played them tight there, but I've seen the Jets play some great games as well at PPG Paints Arena too. So just sending a reminder text to our good friend Colby Armstrong, because he is a busy man. He is part of the broadcast. And if you're wondering what I'm not paying attention to, that's what I'm doing. Sending him a message, and I'm going to notify you anyways. That's one of my favorite benefits of the iPhone.
Oh, that when they say the do not disturb and anyways. So we'll see. When you look at the Jets, so we mentioned that they are on the road now for 6 games. So it is back-to-back. They play in Nashville tomorrow, so there will be no morning skate. Minnesota is on Monday.
Yes.
And then they go LA, Vegas, Dallas. So not only are we talking a lot of miles, which I have not had the time, maybe I will for tomorrow, to calculate.
Didn't our good friends at the webpage put out the amount of miles they're traveling?
Oh, maybe.
Or I think it's just 11. Never mind. It was like the days and how many games and how many time zones.
So
way to go, Cam. That's pretty lazy.
We'll see how energetic I get with it. But you think about the just how busy this is, and not only how busy this section is for them, but obviously the opponents that they are playing against. Vegas leading the Pacific. You've got LA sitting in 3rd right now, and they're just so close. When Greg was talking about, joking about how the real question is, are the Jets 200
miles?
Are the Jets? Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Is that accurate? Did you figure that out? Did you find that somewhere?
Yeah.
When he made the comment about facing the Edmonton Oilers and how that was really the question, when you look at how close it is, I mean, Colorado is currently in the first wild card spot, but you have LA, Edmonton, you've got Vancouver right behind. They're all within 1-2 points of each other. So, I mean, we are only 20 games into the season, but still, I always like looking at what potential matchups could be. And you think about how well the Jets have played, the points that they have been able to accumulate so far on this 16-3 run, and still they are only 3 points ahead of the Minnesota Wild right now, and who they play on Monday.
Yeah, that's the other part. You win all these games, and Minnesota's just kind of hanging around in the background. But I thought, and then we've said this before in the show, is how competitive the Central Division was going to be this year. But it's just there's kind of been a big drop off after the top 3, and Colorado's still trying to find their game. Oh, thank you very much. I just got a note from Colby. He's still doing his show on Spit and Chicklets right now. He said he's going to be 1 minute. So he'll be joining us here momentarily. Like I said, he is a busy man.
We forgot to list the Spit and Chicklets.
Oh my gosh. See, that's like, could you imagine, like his business card not that there's business cards anymore.
Wonder if he has multiple ones. Do you think?
Just depends who he wants to be.
That's right.
I do want to ask him about
International Man of Mystery.
You know how he does those interviews on Sportsnet on the couch in his uniform? He must have talked to Cole Perfetti. So I got to ask him. We got to ask him about that for sure.
Okay.
What do you think?
Sure. You can ask him about anything.
You know what? When you give me the blank look on your face, that means you're not interested in what I'm going to ask you. That you're basically saying to me, how uninteresting of a question was that? How uninteresting. That's what your face just told me. With that right there.
Do you know why he recommends this? Because he's married.
Because I'm married. That's right. I was talking to Dylan Sandberg the other day, and I go, "How's married life?" And he's like, "It's exactly the same." I'm like, "Thank you very much." There's really no change. That's the best part.
It's true. Great. While we're waiting for Colby, why don't we show you an Adam Lowry ad that just got put out? Because it's available on.
What is it now? Black Friday sales?
Black Friday sales, but you might have seen it on X, and I'm not sure what other platforms we have it on right now. But just before we roll it, so it's Adam Lowry and his dog Banks, which if anyone
Banks
follows
is the best, right?
Well, I mean, Banks might be more popular than Adam.
Okay.
All right.
I think that's why he had so many home ice views.
Probably.
Oh my gosh, what is that? Hey, what is this? I think this one's awesome. I'm pumped about it. It turned out amazing. I think sometimes you see in the likeness and some horror stories, but no, I'm pumped. This is it's pretty sweet. You know what? I think he's the star of the show, and everyone that I know that knew he was going to be on the bobblehead was pretty excited. And yeah, you know what? I think he'll be a hot commodity.
So last year,
Yeah.
you mentioned home ice. So last year we did a home ice interview with Adam and Banks at the dog park. And when we were finished and just before it was about to debut, Adam was asking me when we were going to put out, because everybody wanted to know, because they wanted to see Banks. And so I was getting comments, there'd be from some people in Adam's family or good friends and it was, that interview with Banks was so great.
Mhm.
Well, the interview wasn't actually with Banks.
Yeah.
The interview was with Adam. So we joked from that very point on that Adam really was second fiddle. Everybody was just concerned about Banks and getting his moment in the spotlight.
You know who plays second fiddle to nobody?
Who?
Colby Armstrong. There he is. And I love how you've never changed the background because
No, I
of the elaborate artwork that you put into that. Like that's stunning.
Yeah, it's something else, isn't it? I got to paint. Look at me, it's Saskatchewan flag, riding an eagle. Like, I don't know, all the teams I played for over here. Nice, beautiful sunshine over. Yeah, not a big deal. Yeah. Pretty cool to be able to do that at your house now, just with the way we do TV or media or whatever. So I said, you know what, let's make it cool. So I did.
Yeah. Quick question before we get into the important part. You were here with the Penguins on Brian Little night. You had a great story about Brian Little's nickname when you guys were with the Thrashers, and you said it came from Kozlov. So please share that story.
Well, everyone called him Litz, obviously Litz, and that was pretty easy. By the way, it was great to see him. I haven't seen him for so long, so being there and being able to see him and you know, spend a little bit of time with him. I saw him at the hotel too. His family obviously was all in, and see his wife again. And yeah, it was really good for me because it had been some time since I last seen him. But really cool that the Jets did that, honor him. Really good, like quietly underrated player. And he's doing Ironman and all this stuff apparently. So yeah, he looks great. But yeah, we had the old Vyacheslav Kozlov on our team, and he was rather like old timey Russian, like barely smile and stuff, and used to be very straightforward with his message and delivery. But he had like a little joke one day. He called him Brian Small. I don't know why. I think he might have mistaken it, or it was like a really funny joke to him in his own head, but a very and it kind of stuck a little bit with him. So Brian Small for Brian Little. It's kind of like calling Swift Current Speedy Creek, I guess.
Yes.
That's where he was going.
Yeah. Okay, so the reason why we brought you on is to talk about the Penguins and number one subject, blowing leads.
Oh,
like this is an issue, is it not?
Oh, it's been like they've been so like I would say fragile, but yeah, it's been an issue all year with them, and you know, the last two games in a row, at least, anyways, that are fresh of mind, they're you know, up 3 goals, they blow it, they end up winning in a shootout previous, and then the last game just more recently against Tampa, they have the game in control going into third period and losing overtime. So it's happened like throughout this season. And you know, like even in that Jets game, there was some flip-flops of leads, and you know, the Penguins kind of pushed to be in a position to be in a good spot, and then they had, you know, what they have, like a minute and a half of like a blow up in certain areas of their game where the teams can score goals. And that road trip in particular was kind of different that way. Every game had its own story, but it was just like those dips that they're able to have. And they haven't had, you know, the one guy or like the one line or something that can kind of push back and save you in a situation. So it's been a little challenging for them this year with blowing leads, and definitely not going to be easy against, you know, the Jets, who, we all seen what they've been able to do, and a big bounce back win against, you know, Florida the other night, and a hat trick by Scheifele. So they've got a lot of guys that can hurt you, and play a good team game top to bottom. They can't have those lulls, and they're just doing it way too often this year, the Penguins.
Colby, there's so much talk about Crosby, and I mean, obviously he's been having a strong season, but with the way that the Penguin season has been going, do people say, should he leave Pittsburgh? Should you see him on a team like Colorado, obviously with his good friend Nathan McKinnon? Do you see a scenario in which he would leave the only franchise he's ever known?
Is Biz texting you?
I don't want to name names, so we didn't want. Like, I just wanted to throw it out there.
Biz is all over it. Biz is posting pictures with Sid's head on. Like, what the heck is he doing? You know, like, I don't know, but
the guy has a pretty big platform to be doing these things.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
it looked pretty convincing, though, I have to say.
Yeah,
but, I don't know. I don't know what's going to come. The 2-year deal, like, I think when I think of Sidney Crosby here in Pittsburgh and like the fan base and you know, when he came in too, like the team was not that good, you know, so he kind of came in like a tough time, and obviously you don't want to go out with it being in a tough time, but there is like a cultural team style legacy that has been established here. And like, he's the reason why the people for the last 20 years talk about the Penguins and talk about, you know, the way their teams are. And is it different a little bit right now? Yeah, it is. It's near the end, and he's been 20 years in the league doing it. And that comes with it. So honestly, I could say, I don't know, but at the same time, I can say I can't see it, just because of what he's meant here in the city and what he is here, and kind of, I think, how he feels about how he would leave an organization or a team after what he's kind of built. You know what I mean? So I think that's there. I think there's room for people to talk about it, though, at least anyways, too, because just of people want to see him succeed. I think people want to see him win. People like Sid. He does it the right way. He's been like a true professional role model, like for every player that's coming up in the NHL. They're like, oh yeah, I look up to Sidney Crosby. And so they want to see like good things for him, although all the winning and everything he's done already, they want more, and they think he deserves it. So it's a nice thought, but I guess time will tell this year, and then 2 more years on top of that, and where the Penguins will be and where he will be.
Tell you what, he can do his winning at the Four Nations face-off, and then again at the Olympics. So that's where he can do his winning if it's not going to happen in Pittsburgh right away. Last one for you, buddy. Part of the struggles for the Penguins has been goaltending this year. Tristan Jarry was sent back to the American Hockey League. He makes his 3rd straight start tonight. Has he turned the corner?
I would say it looked like it last game against Tampa Bay. He had some like good moments, maybe something to build on, and maybe that's just what he's looking to do. I know he was getting criticism about the overtime winner where he kind of was like slid out of the net on a a goal that was tucked in around him. In one of his first few starts up since returning from Wilkes-Barre too, was like first shot on net on him was like a goal. I think he's had like 4 times this year out of his 6 or 7 starts as he had the first shot on goal go in on him. So it's just been like, it's like a mental hurdle to get over a little bit for him. And I think that's what he's dealing with, is confidence and kind of that mental hurdle. And I think trying to take some small points of his play and break it down and try to build on it. And that's all he has to try to do right now. I think there's lots of pressure on Penguins goaltending right now. And, I thought, to even add to the pressure of Jarry coming into this year, which I think a lot of guys are feeling, and different guys, is the Four Nations and what could have been, and having big years this year and potentially being in certain spots. And now, there's some conversations of guys that like, oh, I don't know. I don't know if that guy could be there. And with the way goaltending was for Canada, I think there was that kind of carrot dangling, or that pressure on top of Jarry as well to start this season. So, I think he's like just going day to day with where he's at in, trying to get back to where he can be, and taking small steps, I would say, through his play since returning.
Well, thank you so much, Colby. Really appreciate the time. I know this is the last time this season that the Penguins and Jets face off, but since we earlier listed all
your jobs.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
all of the jobs that you have. Maybe we can have you on later on this season to just tell stories and talk about some other games as well, because we would love it.
Yeah, anytime. And I am a Winnipeg Jets alumnus as well, as I'm a.
Of course you are.
So,
yes.
Yeah, I don't know if people kind of connect the dots on that with me. So if you forgot about it, I'm just reminding you. Yeah, so it ties in nicely. So I
brought you up. I actually just brought you on the show to tell you they're having a Colby Armstrong night.
The Colby Armstrong Thrasher bobblehead night. Yeah, not a bad idea.
Yes. It's you riding on a ball. So if you ride on the Eagle, it's actually, but we can't have the Saskatchewan flag because people like have
a Manitoba flag. I'll do a Manitoba flag. I don't care. I'll do it.
Yeah. Well, that's what it is. We'll tell you the date a little bit later. But appreciate your time, my friend.
Thanks so
Yes.
much, Colby.
Yeah, great seeing you guys. Thanks for having me on. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
You know,
we really do need to have him on time and just to tell stories, because anyone that's heard him in any of the roles that he's been on, he's a great storyteller as well.
I know he's still on there, but Brian actually just left. Brian Little told me, he said he talks exactly the same. He still sounds the same. When we saw Let's before I taped the pod, he says Colby Armstrong is exactly the same guy.
For it.
Yeah.
I love it.
That's a
Well,
compliment, of
yes,
course. Yes.
some people never change for it. All right, we have run a little bit over, so we are going to wrap
Longest
things
show
up.
ever.
Yes. One of only 2 games tonight, and Jets in Pittsburgh to kick off this 6-game road trip. Great news is that it's a back-to-back. Players might not think it's great, but it's great for all fans to be able to watch them 2 nights in a row. And Colby Sporting is respect. So great news is that we have another show tomorrow.
Yeah.
So we will see you as the Winnipeg Jets get ready for Nashville tomorrow evening.
Sean Reynolds will be our guest.
Looking forward to it.
And his headband, and Lindsay Rowley from the Nashville Predators.
Did you request the headband?
I don't know if he will. I'm going to ask him about it.
I
though.
think you should.
If you haven't, everyone's seen the headband
I
that
think
Reynolds
so.
have. We?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe Sean. I think that there's someone that writes in as Sean's headband or something like that.
There's got to be.
Maybe Weave's water bottle will come back too.
I haven't seen Weave's water bottle yet today.
All
And
right,
we
we
don't
got to
have
wrap things up. Thanks so much for checking in with us. Make sure you join us tomorrow as well. We will see you at 12:30.